What is going on, guys? Welcome to this video. In today's episode, we're going to talk about natural language processing, and we're going to build a script that analyzes the sentiment of a text. So we're going to feed a text into our script, and the script is then going to tell us, hey, this is a slightly positive text, this is a slightly negative text, this is a pretty neutral text, this is a very negative text, or this is a very positive text. So we're going to use natural language processing techniques, but we're also going to keep it very high level, so we're not going to get in depth into what is happening behind the scenes. We're going to just use some libraries and make it happen pretty quickly in Python. So this is what we're going to do in this video. So let us get into the code. All right, so as always, we're going to start by installing some libraries. So we're going to say activate main, which is my Conda environment. If you don't have a Conda environment, just use pip directly. But otherwise activate it and type pip install, and we're going to install 3 libraries, one because it's the basis for the other 2, and 2 because we're actually going to use them. And the basis is called NLTK, which stands for, I think, Natural Language Toolkit, and it's the essential basic fundamental library for natural language processing in Python, and it's also what the other 2 libraries are using or built on. So in addition to that, we're going to install TextBlob, which is what we're actually going to use for the sentiment analysis. As you can see, it's using NLTK. And also we're going to say pip install newspaper 3k, which is essentially the library that we're going to use to get newspaper articles into our script for sentiment analysis. So these are the 3 libraries that we're going to use, or that we're going to install. 2 of them we're going to use. And for the imports, we're going to say from TextBlob import TextBlob with a capital T, capital B, and then we're going to say from newspaper import article. So these are the 2 things that we're going to need, and then we can start analyzing some articles. So the next step is to now go ahead and get the article into the script in order to perform a sentiment analysis onto it. So for this, we're going to specify the URL of the article, and for this, I thought I'm going to look up some articles here on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia should be pretty neutral when it talks about topics like, for example, mathematics, which I'm going to look for right now. This should have a pretty neutral score. And in the end, we're going to get a score from -1 to 1, where -1 is the most negative thing there is, like a hateful, angry article or text. And 1 is the most positive thing, a happy and positive article, and 0 is like completely neutral. So on Wikipedia, we should get probably more neutral examples of texts here. And on CNBC, when we get some news of the Dow Jones rising 100 points, this should be a pretty positive text, a pretty positive sentiment. Whereas when we have news about a recession will be much worse than 2007 to 2009, this should be a pretty negative article, and we're going to check if this is what our program outputs in the end. So we're going to start by saying URL equals mathematics, the mathematics article in Wikipedia, and then we're going to transform it into an article object of the newspaper library. So we're going to say article equals article URL, and this is essentially the object that we're going to use to get the article into the script. So we're going to say article.download to get it into the script, article.parse to make it, readable, or basically to get all the HTML out of it, I think. And then we're going to say article.nlp, which is essentially preparing it for natural language processing. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say text equals, we want to get the text of the article, and for this we can either go for the full text, so we can say article.text, which will essentially give us the whole text without the HTML text and all of that. So it will essentially give us every piece of text that is contained on that website, I think, or most of it. So the full article about mathematics, as you can see, I don't know if this is the full one, but it's a lot more information that you get than if you say summary, for example, because a summary is basically just focusing on the main content of this article. And as you can see, if we go for the full text, we see a lot of stuff that is not really related to the text, something like see also, notes, references, and so on, which are not really important for the sentiment analysis because they're contained in every Wikipedia post. So the summary, we can take a look at it, is a little bit more focusing on what's actually written in the article the main information here. So we're going to pick the summary as the sentiment analysis data set, so to say. And what we're going to do for that is we're going to create a blob object. So we're going to say blob equals text blob, text blob, capital T, capital B of the text. So we're going to pass the string here. We're not passing the article object. The article object is just for getting the text, just getting the clean summary of the text into the script. And now we're going to get this text and create a text blob object from it. And then we're going to say sentiment equals blob.sentiment.polarity. This is the one that we're going to look at. It's going to give us a score from -1 to 1, where again, -1 is very negative, 1 is very positive. And we can just go ahead and print the sentiment of this particular mathematics article of Wikipedia. And in this case, it's a little bit positive. As you can see, 0.13 is more to the 1 than to the -1, so closer to the 1 basically. And I think this is probably because we're talking a lot about discovery and success in the past and what mathematicians found out. And it's a little bit more to the positive side than to the negative side, because mathematics is a pretty neutral topic, but still it yields a lot of progress and achievements. So probably this is the reason why this is a more positive text. Now let's go ahead and pick the Dow rises more than 100 points, and let's see if this is more positive than 0.13, sorry. I think it should definitely be positive, or at least more positive. Oh, it's negative. Why is it? Oh, as you can see, probably it's negative because of stuff like the S&P 500 is down, or gains. I don't know why exactly, probably because we have an almost equal amount of negative and positive statements in here. Probably because we're talking a lot about pandemics and problems and I don't know what. But as you can see, it's a slightly negative argument, but as you can see, it is almost neutral. So I was expecting that to be more positive than negative here, to be honest. But as you can see, this is not prepared, or at least not, I'm not just picking stuff to show you that what I prepared works, but I'm actually working on some real articles here. So this one should be pretty negative because it's all about recession and worse and bad, and it's positive. What the fuck is happening here? Let's check why this is the case. We have pretty neutral stuff here, but actually we're having some words like hitting the US economy harder than a crisis, recession. So I really don't know why this is so positive here. Maybe I have the spectrum the other way around, but let's check for another article here. Let's talk CNBC, I don't know, losses or something. European markets pair losses and focus on pandemic recovery. So this should be negative, or at least more negative than positive. But let's see what the output says. Again, it's a little bit more negative, a little bit more positive, sorry. But most of them are pretty neutral. So let's go for some murder news to see if we have some, there you go, shooting, murder investigation, man dies. So this should definitely be a negative article. So let's see if this works better than the rest. Let's just replace the link here and see what happens. All right, this one is obviously negative because we have traumatic and victim and wounds and I don't know what, traumatic again. So, and also died and something like that. So as you can see, it's not 100% reliable, but if a post is extremely negative in one direction, it's probably going to recognize it. Also, if you have a very, very positive text, it's going to recognize it. If it's more like a gray zone, it's probably not going to recognize it by just looking at the summary. Maybe if you go for the headlines specifically, it's going to give you better results. Because the article about the recession was probably talking a lot about hope and about stocks and money, which is probably associated more with positive values. Whereas also the one that talked about gains in the markets talked about pandemics and problems and diseases and all of that. So it's probably the reason why we get some mixed scores or some neutral scores there. But this is essentially how you analyze articles from the web. And now we're going to take a look at how to analyze our own text. All right, in order to analyze our own text, the only thing that we need to do is we need to replace all of this here, all the article stuff here, with some text that we scan in from files, or we can actually write the text in Python itself. But let's just create a new file here. Let's say file equals my text.txt, and we're going to write a review for a product here. I loved this product. It was great. I will definitely buy more of it. Excellent experience. So this is a very, very positive post, a very positive review. So let's see if our blob object is going to recognize that. So we're going to say with open my text.txt in reading mode sf. We're going to say text equals f.read, and the rest is the same. So let's see if it works. This should definitely work with a very high score. As you can see, we get a score of 0.7, which is extremely high because it's extremely positive, of course. Now let's try the other way around and say something like, I hate this thing. It destroyed my life. I would never buy it again. Worst experience yet. This is a bad product. So if you have something very obvious, it's going to recognize it. So let's try again. And as you can see, we get a almost -1, which is -0.93, which is almost -1. So if it's that obvious, it's going to give you the right answer. If it's a mixed article, you see that there's some more gray area there, and it's not as obvious for the natural language processing kit used by TextBlob here. But we can also try to, write a somewhat negative text that is still quite neutral to see what the result will be. For example, yesterday I went biking, or let's go for hiking, and on the way up I hurt my knees. It was not good, which is probably a little bit confusing because good is rated as a good word, as a positive word. It was not good. We did not have a lot of fun, which is again misleading. Now I have some wounds and I am bleeding. I am also a little bit sad. Poor you. And we can say, but all in all, it was a decent experience. Pretty confusing text here, but I think it will probably even be rated more positive than negative. Oh no, I'm again wrong. It's negative probably because I used words like sad, bleeding, wounds, and maybe it's even capable of associating the not with the good. So probably this is why it's a little bit more on the negative side, because 0.13 on the negative side is, not that neutral anymore. It's clearly negative here. But if I replace decent with a great experience, probably it's going to be less negative here. At least I think so. Yeah, now it's even more positive. Not only even more positive, but it's actually positive, more positive than neutral. So one word can change a lot here. As you can see, this library is just for a little bit, for playing around a little bit. If you want to make a solid sentiment analysis, you're probably going to have some more sophisticated algorithms in the back. So we're going to focus more on the headlines and more on specific word combinations. You're not just going to feed in the text into TextBlob and expect it to be a very accurate representation of the sentiment here. However, if you're going to if you're going to scan 1,000 Amazon reviews on a product and want to get the average, is it more positive or more negative? It's probably going to work because Most Amazon reviews are quite clear. They're telling you if it's a good product, it's a bad product, and something in between. Combined with the stars, you're probably going to get a good feeling of how people think about the product. So this is something you could use this for. Also, you could perform some Twitter analysis with it, and you can base your stock predictions on it. If you put a little bit more effort in building this tool, you can definitely use it for some interesting stuff. So that's it for today's video. I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed it. If that was the case, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel to support it. Also, feel free to ask questions and give feedback in the comment section down below. Tell me if you want to see more videos on natural language processing, or tell me what kind of videos that you want to see in the future. Maybe I can do something about them. And yeah, that's basically it. So see you in the next video. Thanks for watching and bye.